We'll call the meeting to order since it's 6 o'clock and not 7 like last week's meeting when I said 6. And we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mary Kay, roll call, please.
Dr. Dave Bardo,
Here.
Andy Mary,
Here.
Angie Schreiber, Katie Ann Stringa,
Here.
Dr. Julie Spray,
Here.
Danny Hyatt.
Here. Any public comments? Okay, I'll make some though. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge that Andy and Angie are new members on the Finance Committee, and I want to thank them for joining this committee. I wanted to personally thank Katie Ann, Andy, and Chris and Matt Miller for going to the Finance congressional hearing, our legislative hearing. Some things changed on the night before, and I was planning to go. However, I was struggling after driving those 17 hours and then the board meeting on Monday. And actually, instead of getting up at 5:30 to join you guys, I actually slept till after 9 o'clock. So I appreciate that things changed on Tuesday night. Okay, one thing with the new business agenda, it has been requested that H Dreambox software get moved up between C and D, and we will do that. Okay, so under new business, Carnegie Hall Choir trip proposal.
Okay, so Jacob Weston. I don't have a ton of information for you today, but I will share what I have. We've been invited to perform at Carnegie Hall in March of 2024, on March 24th. And that would be with the clinician of Deke Sharon. If you don't know who he is, he's kind of considered like a godfather of a cappella music right now. Writes a lot of the stuff that Pentatonics would sing, a lot of the stuff for the Perfect movies. He's amazing. Holds this festival every year. They bring in really, really famous a cappella groups to sing with the students, or famous singers to sing with the students as well. So we would be part of a larger group singing at Carnegie Hall. We have a couple advantages to this trip in that our price is locked from 2020 when we tried to go before and then could not. So we're still dealing with 2020 prices, except for travel, which obviously changes. We were given a very rough quote based upon the time of year when I asked him for one, which is about $1,635 per person. He estimates it might actually be a little less than that because we're traveling during a less desirable travel time of year. Bigger part I wanted to draw your attention to was in the email that I attached for you. Under number 2, how much money is on file to us, because not all of our money was returned when we had to cancel our trip. And it seems to be a staggering amount, so I'm assuming that one of these numbers has to be at least a little bit wrong. But there's $9,532.50 on file with the DCI-NY, which is the concert company, and $33,938.12 on file with the travel company. So it's $33,000 that I kind of wonder about if they got that number right, but I'm having them check on that. But if that is correct,
And we're in a
that's
really
a
good.
huge, that's a huge number.
Yes, and that's good.
So I was just wanting to make you aware that we're going to be looking at this, and it's a good opportunity for the students. Willing to take any questions if you have them.
Can you refresh my memory, when you didn't go before, students, families, got all their money back,
Yes,
but where'd that money come from?
I couldn't tell you that.
Tim worked with them because they had been fundraising, right? So
Yes.
there was
There was a certain amount of money that they had personally paid, and I had all the records of what they had personally paid against what they had fundraised specifically
Right.
for their child. And somewhere along the line, they, I don't know where they got the money from, that's not a question for me, I don't think, but they were refunded the money that they had personally paid to the district and not fundraised money.
right.
But did the district pay that money back, or?
I would actually have to check with Tim or the record that is left. I don't recall. It was not a simplistic refund, though, as you
It was
recall.
very,
It was
Yeah.
I
tough.
remember quite a few lawyers being involved.
So my recollection is that the district pays some of that back. I don't know. Danny, you must have been involved, right?
Yeah, I'm like Jacob. It was, or Mr. Oxley, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Was kind of cumbersome, and Tim was very instrumental in helping make this happen. And I'm sure that what this file is showing is the fundraise money and not the individual. So if student A paid $500 for their trip, they got their $500 back, but not the remainder of the trip that was fundraised for.
Not that
This
couple
money on
hundred.
file, the company only refunded us, I think it was like 60% of
A
our
percentage,
back.
right.
Yeah, and they required us to leave however percentage back.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think that was one of the points of contention, because COVID wasn't anybody's
Yeah.
fault necessarily, and we just couldn't believe that they weren't refunding, but whatever their policy said, you know, because it wasn't their error, they didn't
An
have
act
to
of
refund.
God is what they said.
Well, anyway, you can look this up, Katie, right, and determine
I'm sure I can. Got a note.
if you need Tim's phone number. I got it here for you.
Well, it's
Sounds
Alco.
Just call Alco. Oh, yeah, no, I'll look into that, and kind of see what's.
Okay, that was my only question.
So Jacob,
Yes.
when are you looking for us to say, sure, you can go to Carnegie Hall? How
A
soon?
couple times, it seems like that's a way down the road question, I guess.
Okay,
I get, this was mostly, from my understanding of talking to Mary Kay, this is mostly to get an okay to start fundraising if you need to organize the parents to do so. So that this isn't like, surprise, we're also fundraising and the district has no idea.
okay, so we'll put it on the agenda.
I
so-
assume you guys wouldn't want to look at it until I have more concrete details about schedules, which we can't really know until we get much.
But if you want to fundraise for the trip, we should approve the trip just like we did the Rose Bowl trip. So let's put it on the agenda, talk to the board about it so that they know that this is going to happen and that Mr. Oxley will come back later with the real details of the trip.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I can give
we're
you-
basically approving them to fundraise for the trip, which means we're going to approve it.
Okay, appreciate that.
Mr. Oxley, when will you know that $33,000? Like you, I think that's,
I think he wanted to, Jeff Benner, who is the guy I'm talking with at DCINY, wanted to make sure that we were okay to start fundraising, and we were more leaning towards a, yes, we are going on this trip, and we're going to start making payments before he started digging into the other companies' files. But they're related companies, they're just not the same.
okay.
I was frustrated with that answer.
How many kids will go potentially?
I think I have 35 in next year's choir, and the choir that I want to go, I have 4 choirs. The top choir is the one I'm looking at bringing, because they tend to be more reliable and more ready for this set. So I think it's about 35. I know some of them aren't interested, or the families do not want to look into going. And if that's the case, I would look to try to even out like room assignments, which actually brings the price down per child. So I might bring a couple other kids from other choirs if they're deserving.
Did that 1,600 include airfare? Or is that?
Yeah, that's their rough estimate for everything.
Well, so then the money you have on file there, if that was correct, these kids only raise about $400.
Yeah, it's like $400 or $500 if that's correct, which hoping it is. If it is, that's an incredible and easier opportunity.
Yeah,
I
no
understand when
kidding.
some kids don't.
Yeah.
And they can all say thank you to all those people who fundraised
Yeah,
4 years ago. When that happens.
absolutely.
Okay, anything else for Mr. Oxley?
Do you, have you given any thought that you would only want to use part of that money and make these kids fundraise a little more? So you have in 3 years, you have something, a little head start for that group?
So I'm debating on that because the last time before we had to cancel the trip, the company was not easiest to deal with. So I was ideally not going to go back to this company, but we have all this money sitting there. So it's hard for me to turn down a good opportunity that's cheap, but I don't necessarily enjoy working with their inner workings.
Okay,
So ideally, I think if I were to take another trip to New York, I'd look at doing it through a different company.
All right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, new business B, touchscreen Chromebook purchase request. I think you did say you were going to have surgery, didn't you? Or did you not? Or did you fall?
No, no surgery.
Okay.
Thanks for seeing me tonight. I'm asking, for the okay to purchase these, only because we waited until the March 22nd, or 22nd, meeting, those Chromebooks would be out of stock, and then we have to wait until August or late August, early September before we'd be able to order again, before the company got the restock for these models. And we'd like to be able to use them right away in the fall of the year, so. So that's the reason I'm here tonight, is to ask if it's okay if I went and ordered them, just to get them in time for the fall.
So you want to order early like we did last time, so
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
so
way.
that it goes on the May agenda?
Yeah, it's technology's still trying to catch up with everything, so it's
Okay.
It's still a ways back from.
So we're basically looking at CDW for 36.5
Right,
and coming out of ESSER funds.
correct.
And what are these for?
The kindergarten, if they want to start kindergarten on some Chromebooks, so they're experimenting with a couple of classes. So,
As
trying to
opposed-
wiggle away from the iPads.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're seeing like transition barriers from the iPads to the Chromebooks, so getting them on what they will be using throughout their tenure earlier, they're going to try and see how that works.
What about the durability between the iPad and the Chromebook? Because I saw some of the iPads of the little guys, and they look pretty durable, they be thrown around, but a Chromebook looks a little bit more fragile.
I think with the age group you're talking about, I don't think we're gonna have any problem with that. As they get older, they get a little bit more aggressive with the devices, but
Okay.
and then that still comes down to the teachers and classroom management and stuff too, so, I don't see that to be a problem on the kindergarten level, because we haven't had any problem with first grade,
Okay.
with the touchscreen. First grade's already got touchscreens, Chromebooks.
Okay.
So they'll kick these through grade 12?
No, they'll be in 4-year rotation, just like all the other Chromebooks.
How are the little guys, Rachel, with the iPads and Chromebooks?
My school's keeping the iPads
Okay.
because of the reason you just said, Danny.
Okay.
I got, they want to go show their friends something and, or they go to walk away and their headphones grab there is on the iPad goes flying, lands on the floor. The cases are very, very durable on the iPads. So we wanted just to wait a year to see what the other kindergarten teachers came up with. So the other kindergarten teachers did decide to try it, so we'll wait on their feedback.
So I'm assuming this is north and east that they'll be trying this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you, Rachel, on this one, because I think, I'm not a tech person like you, Mark, but.
Well, you pull anything off the table, it's got a chance to break.
Exactly.
The iPads do a nice case.
And our little guys like to pick their keys off too, our first graders do right now, we're seeing. Not to destroy them, just like, oh.
This comes off.
I can pick at that for a little while, and I pick a key up, and we don't have a K. But I love the idea of the touchscreen Chromebooks. Our first graders have had a lot of success with that. And
That's one.
in fact, our second grade teachers are hoping, maybe at some point we can move that up to second grade, because it's just a little bit easier with even some of our assessments to just tap the screen. So I appreciate that we're looking at another option just to see if it would work. They're a little bit more reasonable, and it just helps with, like they said, the transition up to the next grade.
Do you have a lot of problems with, because I think this is pretty durable, I drop it on a regular basis.
Like I said, the older they get more aggressive, the more keys come off.
Well, you can tell how old I am, so I know how, yeah, what kind of treatment this gets.
I guess I'm at 2 through 12.
I know I hear from some of the middle school students that they're picking keys, you probably know this too, the same thing that the little first graders are doing.
Oh, yeah. Yep. First grader with one.
my 12th graders say, oh yeah, they come apart really easy. Dad, you want me to show you? No. I don't want you to show me.
Okay, any other questions for Mark? Okay, Mark, you have my authorization to go ahead, and we will confirm it on the May meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, item C, Snap-on Auto Scanner, CTE Incentive Grant Purchase.
Snap on.
Snap-on. Thought we were in a sugar chair.
Oh, well,
You realize that works,
Well, we're,
and you were being televised to the nation.
oh, that's awesome. That's good.
Okay, you guys have the floor.
All right, well, I'm Ray Churchill. I am the automotive small engines instructor at the high school.
Mike Prezick.
And we are looking to upgrade our scan tools. And so just a brief explanation of what a scan tool does. As many of you know, most of our automobiles past 1996 are all computer operated. And so have any of you ever seen that check engine light come on in your car? We see that check engine light, and the thing is, you can open up the hood and it doesn't tell you anything. You have to have one of these scan tools that we plug into it and get a code. And then here, what we do now is then we go on and we take that code to a software service that we subscribe to, and it tells us some information about the code. It doesn't tell you. I wish it tells you. That's why we want a new one. And it doesn't tell you exactly what to do, but it gives you some hints as to where to go and those kinds of things. So we currently have scan tools that were so this is my 5th year in that classroom. And the year before I got there, we got these tools right here, which are made by the Autel company. We have 2 of these, and we're requesting 2 new scanners. So this is about 6 years old, and it works. However, over the few years, I have learned some of the concerns with these. And what we'd like to do is upgrade. The main reason, we had a customer come in with a very new pickup truck, and we like to serve our community. And they asked us, hey, can you plug in and tell me why this light's on my dash? And so we plugged her in, and I said, can't do it. It's outdated. We didn't have anything. Our technology was outdated to do a new vehicle. So that got Mike and I talking, like, we should look into some new scan tools. And so we did. And so he's got all the numbers, and we've been contacting with Snap-on, so he's going to talk about that. But just kind of give you kind of some reasoning as to the direction we want to go, the reason we want to go where we want to go. So this is Autel company. These are based straight out of China. They're very reasonable. And I don't know the exact reasoning why the instructor before me wanted these. I'm guessing because it was a new company that just came out. We have some other Autel equipment. I will tell you, we needed a little tiny tip for a little camera tool we have, and it took 5 months to get it, shipped straight from China. So that's one of the concerns why I'm kind of like, do I really want to go with this company again? One of the other main reasons is I don't know a single shop in the remote area whatsoever that's using these tools, and that's a huge issue for me. Mike and I did some homework, and we contacted Lucas Service, Volks Auto, Parsons of Anago, Ryan Leonard GM, and we said, hey, what scan tools are you guys using? You guys using Autel or anything? And what's Autel? And they all said we're using the Snap-on scanners. And so we then got in touch with Snap-on, and we decided those are the ones that we want to go with. So we would like to replace both of the scanners. We would like to do kind of one of the really high-end, the one that we're seeing used at all the shops, and then we'd like to also get an additional one that's not quite as advanced. We'd have the super advanced technology with one, and then we'd have just an up-to-date, reputable scanner with the other one. A couple other reasons why. I mentioned this, but I want my students to be able to walk out of my classroom and be able to walk into a dealership and be able to grab that scan tool and be like, oh yeah, I know how to use that. I learned that in school. Mr. Prezick takes students on those Skills USA trips. I was talking to a student who went there, and he was in a competition for something automotive related. I don't know all the details, but they handed him a scan tool, and it was the Snap-on Zeus, the one that we're interested in. He literally went, how do I turn it on? And didn't have a clue because he didn't using ours. And like I said, ours worked, but we've been pretty wowed by some of the new technology that's come out with this, these new scan tools. So that's the reason why I would say we want these new ones. Obviously, we need to update. It's time. And just to kind of talk a little bit about some of the new advancements. So right now we have scan tools, and then we have a whole separate account, I would say, with a company called AllData, which is like a repair manual. So back in the day, you'd open up a book, and you look up whatever vehicle is and how you fix it. Well, now, the students can just log in on their computers, and we have a library of manuals for all vehicles. It's $975 a year. We've been doing this since I've been here. It's a good company. But what's nice about these new Snap-on scanners is it's actually built into the scanner. Now, it's a different company, so we would have to drop this account for next school year, and we would join in with this new Snap-on one. But it would be something where a student can plug in the vehicle and pull up everything on the scan tool. And once it gets pulled up, they can find that code, and then with the push of a button, they can go directly to that diagnostics, all live information, and it was impressive. Mike and I were at the Tech Ed conference, and we were wowed. When he just had like a sample code, and not only did it tell you, I'm sorry, I'm geeking out on this. Not only did it like tell you like, okay, here's the code, it showed you a graph of the most probable. So like when technician in who knows where, Texas, had this, they found out that this was the solution. They document that, and then the scan tool starts showing different solutions and it puts a graph as to which solution actually solved the problem. And so then my students can pick the scanner up and they can be like, oh, well, 75% of technicians with this same code said this was the issue. Okay, we at least, doesn't guarantee that's the issue, but we got a good place to start. It also pulls up all the technical service bulletins, all the recalls. It's like everything, instead of logging into this, and boom, it goes right to the scan tool. So that posed another question that Mike and I had with the Snap-on representative. We said, that's great, but if we have one scanner that can do that, and then just another more standard scanner, what about the other students who are working on a vehicle? They need repair procedures too. And he confirmed with us that, do you know how many tickets or seats?
100 users.
We could get 100 users in that same program that they get on the scan tool that they could have access to through the Chromebooks, which is exactly, it basically do what we have now, and then in addition, they can also get it directly on the scan tool. So we wouldn't be losing that, because that was my big concern. I was like, well, I don't want to lose that. The students use this all the time. And he said, no, that's not a problem. We would get 100 seats for that. So that's what we are proposing, and then, like I said, Mike's got the numbers.
Yeah, so those were shared out with, you all have access to them, but there's a bunch of options on this quote because they didn't know exactly what route we were going, so we wanted so much information. And we're still waiting for Snap-on to clarify a couple of things with the service plans as far as the Shop Key Pro and then this other data plan. So they haven't been real clear on the difference between them, so I've asked some very specific questions, but our sales representative's been out of town on vacation, and he come back today, but he did not get back to me with all the information. They're actually sending us a demo scanner to try here as well. I was supposed to be here already, but I didn't show up yet. We're going to have access to it, give it a try. With those scanners, we've had a couple issues with antenna breaking, a few things too, so we have some repair things that we have to deal with. But as far as the quotes, we're looking at getting the Solus Legend, which is a small scanner, which is $2,711.68, and then it has a subscription package with that for $753.20. And then we're looking all the way down to the bottom of the quote with a Zeus Plus 3-year subscription is. That's $12,877.56, and then that Shop Key is the licensing for the rest of the students. We're not sure if that's a yearly subscription, if that's a one-time deal, and those are the things that we're waiting on clarification for. And then the very bottom, Ray in class, when he's doing his demonstrations and things, you only have one scanner. It's hard for all the students to see what's going on, and he's able to project then up on the screen. With the Snap-on scanner, we have to have a docking station in order to hook up to the projector system, and that's what that $324 item is on the very bottom, so that he can hook up and demonstrate to the entire class what is going on. As far as purchasing this equipment, we're looking at our CT incentive grant funds, so it wouldn't be coming out of our regular budget or anything like that. It would be CTE funds that could be used for this. And then we would also be looking at, down the road, any certifications that we might be able to use with this Snap-on equipment to then replenish some of that CTE incentive grant money. That's kind of how that works. We use several things right now to get that money back into that account throughout the year with different certifications, so. In a nutshell, that's
Who's certifying that you get money?
it's through, was Act 59, the CT incentive grant funds. So we do a battery charging one that we haven't got our training yet for, but we do our snap-on meter training. There's a precision inspection training that we can do. So every student that takes that, then the state gives the district X amount of dollars back
Okay.
per student. We have SolidWorks and something else too that we do through that.
And is there a certification for students, after they've learned how to use this scanner that Snap-on gives them or anything?
That's what we're checking. That's one of the questions that Marty hasn't got back on, this very specific tool that we have. That's what we're hopeful for, because Snap-on's kind of like the lead on all of the certifications with all these other things, so he hasn't got back to me on that, though.
Okay. And if you were getting this from the company that you used there before, what would the price be, or haven't you checked into that even?
Yeah, we actually looked into that. This scan tool would be about $2,000 to $3,000. And so.
So it'd be comparable to the Snap-on, the smaller Snap-on
The smaller.
scanner that we're getting, yeah.
But there's no option to get the bigger one from this company then? Okay, yeah.
This one here, at the time, this was their best of the best. And honestly, when you look at the new one, their new one looks similar. So they haven't really.
How much smaller is Snap-on compared to that on the screen?
The smaller Snap-on, well, so like the Zeus, which is the one, the big one I want, that's pretty much the same size.
Okay.
And then what's it, the Solaris, that one is, I'd say, 2/3 the size maybe. So,
I think it's really important that you're looking at what dealers around here are using, so kids can
Yeah.
get right out and don't look like
I
they
was
didn't learn
really
anything.
surprised when the students, no one uses this. They've served us well. I'm grateful that we have them. But, when that student went to Skills USA and literally he was clueless, I was like, "Ooh, that makes us look bad,"
Yeah, couldn't even turn it on.
I was like, that's rough, And he knew essentially like what he was doing in terms of what codes were, how to scan, but in terms of how to use the technology. Didn't have a clue. So,
We've just recently updated all of our scanners at transportation.
oh,
And obviously Snap-on is who we have, and I'll say these are very good prices.
yeah, they give a good discount
Yeah.
for
We
schools.
have a pretty good education on this stuff.
It's really good. And then the larger screens is what the mechanics there, of course, they're going to use a whole lot more than what their students do, but it's the same tool. And the larger screen makes it a lot easier to read the codes that are on there without having to move back and forth and read what's on there. So I think that's a great idea there.
So, Mike, some of the numbers may change by the time we get 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, they may adjust. We may not have to get one of those data packages, or we may have to get something different, so it's all up to
Yeah,
them.
I'm just clarifying,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think all of us are in favor of doing this, so.
You think that Marty would have all this information prior to our board meeting at the end of the month?
Yeah, if he doesn't, so basically the last email I sent him is if he would not get us the information, then I needed to get in contact with somebody above him, because I needed the information
Right.
for it.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
I think they would really like that.
awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
So we are at H, Dreambox Software. Rachel, if I'd known Ray was going to talk so much, I would have put it before C.
It's okay, I appreciate the flexibility. I thought I'd be tracking across the street tonight, and I was gonna run over at the end, and, thank you for pushing me up, although there's some good stuff on there, probably this day. So in the board docs were just the 2 quotes, but I thought that you might like to see a little bit of this data as well that was just recently shared with us, from the company. So the 2 quotes are essentially run under 2 different budgets, but I'm just here to talk about both. Okay. So one quote is for the middle school. And the middle school is going to be funded out of our technology software budget, the way it currently was this past year.
And then the second quote is for our elementary, and we pay for that out of our AGR account because it's a strategy to close the achievement gap. But I think just for your information, so we've been using Dreambox at elementary for about a little over, almost 2 years now. And the middle school decided to pick it up last year. And if you notice, there's some pretty awesome usage and highlights on the second page there that, for instance, 99 to 100% of our students in K-6 are logging in and completing lessons. And then 97% of our seventh graders. So they're using it. A goal for Dreambox is for us to hit 5 lessons a week. And you will see that at every school, except for North right now, we're meeting that goal. They're completing an average of 5.3 across the district. So that's essentially the minimum amount you want to use this program to see a year's worth of growth.
What do we think the reason that North is at 3.2?
I don't know. If you look at kind of the time too, I know these are really small, but like they're using it for 34 minutes a week,
Right.
where the other schools are using it a little bit more. And so when I met with the rep, we were just looking at kind of our K-7 lens right now. So Donna will probably want to take a look at that and dig into that a little bit more. I think another key piece is when you look at how much the teachers are in the soccer. So not only are there students in there, but the teachers are, and that's the second group of numbers. You'll see that at the middle school, 48% of the staff are logging in, and it's like 2 times per teacher. Where, when you get down to West, you'll see that 89% of the staff's logging in, and it's like 4.8 logins a week. So they're getting in there more, they're looking at data more, maybe they're assigning some lessons. And I attribute that to Renee Smith is our math sport teacher at West. And she just is really well versed in Dreambox, brings it to the teachers, brings it to the team meetings, goes in herself though sometimes and logs in quite a bit. So some of that's her logging in as a teacher, just to see what's going on in the classrooms. But I think the really exciting point was at the very bottom, that 334 students have grown an average of 1 full grade level. And that was in mid-April, we still have a little bit to go. And that 291 of them have grown 0.6 grade levels in growth.
Out of how many students? Roughly?
What are we at? About, between the middle school and elementary, I can't even do that off the top of my
What's
head.
the 334 students have grown? Is that your numbers that?
Yeah, they're in the quote, roughly the numbers of our students, like 40.
So 980.
Yeah, so let's say 900 students, because we upped that a little bit.
Okay.
And middle school teachers wouldn't all log into the same, would they? I know that they split.
They do, our
Math and
4-5 is
ELA.
utilizing a lot more than our 6-7. But I see what you mean, because they share the load. Yeah, sure, so maybe one teacher out of the 2 pairs is logging in more, would be the only logging in. And that's something that may show up too with our 6-7. There'd be no reason maybe for the science teacher to log in, when the math teacher's looking to
Right.
it. So you do have to consider that when looking at some of the data. And then the last page is just kind of a reference for seeing growth. So in Dreambox, you can see it tied to standards and grade level standards. And so we just captured a couple of students. The first one is a kindergartner. So you'll see they have, nearly completed all of the kindergarten standards in counting and cardinality. Then they've moved into geometry and actually moving up into some first grade standards.
And this is a kindergarten.
That's a kindergartner. Yep, and they're not gonna get, obviously, the bottom 4, that's not kindergarten content, right? So in all their standards, some of them are moving into first grade. And then if you see, the next one is a 3rd grader. So still working on some of those skills in 2nd grade that they needed, so they're, getting proficient, but look at how much growth they've had within 3rd grade and then even into 4th. So our teachers can take a look at those graphs and see where their students are at in achieving the standards, and then they can choose to assign certain assignments within each standard if they want the students to really get some, direct work on some of the standards, because it is based on student choice. So even if there's an assignment there, the student doesn't have to choose the assignment. So we really have to teach the students, when you go in, you go to this one first, because they'll find as they're in the program that some of these ones are a little bit more fun and easier for me. And so we have to really be in there as teachers to take a look at the data and make sure they're achieving all the standards within their group. Some of the teachers at my building knew that coming up, they were gonna start working on fractions. So they started assigning some of those to get some pre-teaching and some of that work before they got to the class.
Are both of these other third grade?
I think the bottom one is a fourth grader.
Fourth grade?
Mhm.
So Rachel, I'm seeing two, I'm assuming one's middle school, one's the elementary.
Correct.
Okay, the higher one, middle school?
I think the higher one's the elementary.
Oh, okay. Now, we've been doing elementary before. Have we been doing the middle school one too? Okay, all right. Any questions for Mrs. Haas?
I think this is really good. I'm glad that you brought it to the district, or whomever, I think you did, that you introduced it to us.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of success. And even my daughter, she's a seventh grader, she enjoys going to the program as well.
And- Okay, hearing none, on the agenda.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, now, we will go back from H to D, possible additional full-time elementary substitute.
Well, we have been brainstorming. We are still short subs, most districts are. However, our principals at a committee meeting earlier this year shared some data with you at the elementary about the number of positions that go unfilled. And the structure at elementary is different, as you know, than at middle and high school where they have periods. So it's a little bit, not easier, but more manageable to find somebody to sub for, let's say, 42-minute class. Elementary only has prep when they have specials. And if there is not a specialist sub, which happens most of the time, then not only does that teacher lose prep, but then, there's just nobody available to relieve them except for the principal. So we put our heads together, and as long as we had ESSER dollars available still, we would like to double and have a second person as a full-time substitute
At the
teacher for
elementary.
next year. At just the elementary.
Yeah.
High school is looking at changing its subbing. We have Canvas, as you know, so instead of having a certified teacher in there, if I am absent, it is my responsibility to make sure, this is what we're talking about, that everything is ready to go in Canvas. Then I don't need a certified teacher. I would need a supervisor, and that's a lot easier to get. And so the kids would independently log in, somebody would just have to be there kind of to troubleshoot, but not necessarily instruct. Elementary isn't like that. They're not independent learners for the
Right.
most part, and we feel that's where our greatest need is.
So in high school, do they make up a sub by teachers? If I have a prep hour and I go in for a sub for somebody, do they get paid for that?
They do. $20, which is the curricular rate, or they can get an hour of sick time instead, and the board approved that. I think we've been doing that full year. This is the second year.
So does that happen at the middle school too, or, yeah, but not at elementary?
Are there a number of
It
teachers?
Elementary does if they lose that specialist time, but
And only if they combine someone. It is much more prominently used at middle and high school level. Elementary is just, their lists are a lot shorter per quarter minimally.
So one of the elementary teachers told me, he teaches science and math, and the other one teaches English and social studies. But sometimes if one of them is gone, they combine their class for the day. Do they get paid for that? No.
And same with at other levels, if they're combining classes and they're not giving up prep time, they do not get paid either.
Okay.
How many teachers take advantage of that incentive of giving up their prep time to go and teach and substitute? Do we have a good number?
we do.
Okay.
And the management of it is pretty easy now when it gets to payroll. Savannah can enter it either in Skyward, right, and sick time, or the extra duty pay, because we have them select. What I think, without any data to back it up, those with young kids are taking sick time because they need it.
That was my next question, who's taking sick time, who's taking the hourly pay? Interesting. I'm glad that they're taking advantage of it.
Right, I am too.
That's an interesting word to say they're taking advantage of it, or are they doing it because it needs to be done?
Yeah.
Could be a combination of both, maybe?
I don't know how many would be jumping if there wasn't an incentive.
Yeah.
Because
Uh-huh.
they're giving up their prep
Okay.
time, which means they're probably doing that at other times.
Right.
So I think it's a combination, advantage for the incentive and being willing to help out, but without that, I don't.
So when the incentive came, did we see more participation in that than what we had before? Because we had nothing before, correct?
We had, even when I was hired, we had the pay rate, it wasn't $20 an hour. You also raised that in recent years. And we had that for just the secondary schools. But we made it more equitable and also offered that sick leave. And some teachers are more willing than others. It's a personal choice in some cases. But what I have to say is, as a district, people just jump in and help each other, which is invaluable, so.
So we have 3 full-time subs right now. Do we keep track of how many days they come in and there's no place for them to sub? So we
That
do
has never happened,
Uh-huh. And how many
wondered about that.
how many full-time subs could we have and never have that happen?
Right, I don't know. So many don't get subs, like counselors or, what are some other positions? If I'm an interventionist, they don't even put in for a sub. And then we have many that just go unfilled, and so it becomes a principal's job to troubleshoot with admin assistant help, of course, and, it's a little different each day, who's going to cover it when and how.
So, I don't see this on here, but how much is this costing us compared to if we just got a sub for 180 days?
Well, the two differences are, benefits are offered with this, so we did not have trouble filling those 3 positions when we returned in-person learning. And the other thing I was going to say, we don't have people on our everyday, if we were able to fill it the first way you suggested, just with daily subs, we wouldn't be asking. But we can't get enough people to accept those positions.
No, and specifically in the elementary, and I'm sure Rachel would be willing to talk to this as well, our principals are trying to help because we are so shorthanded. And so then that's putting them behind in the work they need to do also. So by bringing in another full-time sub in the elementary, which actually, I can't speak to previously years, but this year, we've had the full-time sub in almost long-term subbing situations where they are not traveling between like what we had hoped would happen because they're needed.
So they're doing long-term sub.
Long-term subbing at the moment because of vacancy or paternity or maternity leaves at the current moment.
And so what is this position, will this person be paid? Is that on here?
Didn't see it, but it's, I can't remember what it was last year.
I bet you're looking that up.
I'm gonna see, because who's the elementary?
Samantha Lear.
Did you get that nod?
Yep.
Yeah, there was the nod. I noticed it.
I forget.
A nod with a smile, by the way.
She's been in a long-term
Okay.
placement since
Right.
January. So we haven't had her as a floating sub at all at the elementary. So that did add extra stress on the elementary is that, thank goodness we did have someone to cover, but we haven't had a floating sub since January.
As a long-term sub, it might be a different number also.
I don't think so. I
No.
think
Oh.
She
our
doesn't get paid
full-time
this.
gets more. So it looks like for a year, they have
Starting teacher salary.
36,000, so
Okay,
just
so
a little
under.
A little
tiny.
less.
A little
Yeah,
less.
6,000 less.
So,
Well, I truly believe there's a need for this, so I would like it on the agenda, Mary Kay.
Well, my question is the need greater than what you're presenting to us here?
it is, but at the current moment, budget and that we need to do an analysis, and we're actually switching our substitute management system because our current system, it archives all the data and we can't get to it, so our new system will give us a lot more live time data, but they also claim with this new system a 30% more higher fill rate, because it's not a robocall that our subs will be getting. They can choose to get a text message, they can choose, there's an app that they can log into and see the assignments that are available for picking up, and they claim higher fill rate with that. Because a lot of our subs do say, well, it was a robocall, I didn't answer it. You know,
I didn't answer.
Yeah.
Well, it's a roll call, but they know who it's coming from.
They may or may not. I want, and I haven't had the chance to speak with the admin assist or the schedulers to ask how often they're reaching out and getting fills versus our substitute management system at the current moment.
Uh-huh.
So we're hoping that switching systems and going that route.
And the few we did talk to, just the app itself, when you can indicate when you're available and when you get that text, I mean, we're hoping to streamline some things and not be so archaic.
Well, Rachel, how stressful is it to you and teachers to not have that sub fill?
Very stressful.
And so as a teacher, they can go somewhere else and teach. There's no shortage of opportunities for where somebody could be, but I think of this as a retention thing. If we can have a substitute when you need one.
Right.
It was very nice to know, and Tom, John, and I work very well together, and we have a priority list of where, like, Sam would go. The classroom teachers are first,
Uh-huh.
and then maybe special education and special. So, if Sam had picked up, if I had a job at North, but I had a third grade teacher call and say, Sam would move over to that position. It was just nice to know I could just assign her into those places and not have to worry about it being filled. And then when she moved into that long-term position, I mean, like January, February were rough. I was subbing a lot in the classroom because I prefer to be in there versus losing an interventionist, to pull in there, or my counselor. Their jobs are very important, and I don't want them to feel they're any less than or any less important. But I also have to have people in the classroom with the children. So I really appreciate at least getting a second one. And, some people really enjoy just the difference every day, just knowing they'll have a dog every day. Just it's going to be different. Like Sam there really enjoyed that position.
Mhm.
So maybe there'll be somebody else who will enjoy that as well.
So you said January and February were rough. March and April are different?
I would say lately the illnesses have maybe tapered up a bit. But yeah, for a while there, it was really, really challenging. But we got through it. And the kids are flexible, staff's great, staff will help it, jump in, when we're like, Dr. Sprague said, we don't get subs for some of our staff, just doesn't make sense,
Mhm.
but then we're covering duties, right? So then we still need them, so then we have to, run through our list of that and make sure that lunch duty, recess duty, bus duty is all covered too, so, which is part of the job. But another extra person sure would help.
Well, yeah. I mean, I look at this and say, are you really saving money to have a daily sub, or to have that room not have sub, or to have Rachel go in and sub? Is that really saving money?
Well, I will tell you as a principal and as a superintendent, I loved going into the classroom. But when you're a principal or a superintendent, when you're not there, the Paul gets higher because you're not doing your principal or your superintendent job, but it was always fun to go into a classroom. But, yeah, because it's just, they have other duties and they need to be seen by other people, not stationed in a classroom. But I can tell that Rachel enjoyed it because she smiled as soon as I said it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
Okay.
nice break for administrators, but you can't do it all day long for the week. You just can't.
Okay, if Rachel's saying this was fun in January and February,
Fun, but we got through it.
So basically, you're saying right now, 2 is what you're looking for, and, okay,
Yes,
that's what
this
we'll,
would be a second at the
yeah,
elementary.
yep, we'll send that forward.
Yeah, this is something that we're doing a deeper analysis on for once ESSER ends, the probability of needing to sustain something similar because of the need. It's there. So.
I would just add a cost in there, because as, I don't know if it's Dave or Andy asked, what it
Is
is.
Andy.
Okay.
I can,
Yeah, I would put that in there for the board meeting.
Okay. E, R&R contract renewal.
So we have been with R&R 2.5 years. That was our first full contract, and to my surprise, it renews 23-24. So they are asking for another 3-year contract. They started mid-year, the first year last, rolling 3 years, so that's why it was only a 2.5. They're asking for a 3-year contract this year. First 2 years are set price. Third year increase is not to exceed 3% over prior period. We have been exceptionally satisfied with their services. I can't speak to prior to R&R, but they have successfully kept an insurance committee that is comprised of certified staff support, staff admin, and administrative assistants. And we meet monthly, if not multiple times a month. We've met 3 times in the last month, just with renewal coming. And so I'm asking that we push this forward to continue our contract with them for the next 3 years.
What type of insurance is it?
So this is the contractor that works between us and our insurance carrier. So
Got it.
the
All right.
next item
Yeah.
talks about the insurance
Okay,
that we.
I understand. Any other questions? Okay, you're keeping adding them, Mary Kay.
So
Now we get to the tough parts.
Yes, well, this one's a little painless until next Monday, but I was given more information today to kind of give you guys just an overview of what the meeting on the 8th will hold. So if you kind of take a look at the next 2 pages, it specifically outlines where we are at with renewal. We're with Aspirus currently, and we offer 2 plans, a signature plan and a freedom plan. Our initial renewal off, just like right out of the computer, was 24%. They dropped that to 21%, and then with Michelle from R&R's bartering, they got it down to 16.5. After we spoke, we asked them to do a deeper analysis because we have a decent amount of participants on the Freedom Plan, which means they can use Marshfield services as well, so it's a higher liability to Aspirus. And they were quoting us that all of them were using the plan. We found out that 77% don't even touch the Marshfield services and actually could be on signature plan, but just for a safety net decide to be on that higher plan. And so with looking at the usage, then they dropped us down to a 14%. And after I played hardball,
Now it's 12.
now it's 12, and I don't think we're gonna move much in that sandbox. They're at least in the sandbox at this point.
Okay.
So we're at a 12%, which is an increase of $399,981.
Of that amount, 361,000 and some odd change is district portion. With the insurance committee meeting that we had today, none of us are super happy for an increase at all, but better than the 24% that we were initially given. And it provides that 12% increase is not too much on the premiums for the employees. And I will be presenting all of that in depth at the May 8th meeting. Insurance increases were a huge topic at the superintendent conference. It's very common right now, double digits also. So, not that that makes us feel any better, but I do know their districts are in the same situation.
Katie, did any other companies bid, or did Aspirus just did it and kept dropping and dropping and?
So before we even got the 16.5%, I put us out to quote. That was on my request. Our broker wasn't quite sure if she wanted to. I recommended we did, and she did put us out to quote. WPS declined to quote. United Health Group and Anthem quoted. One was at an 82% increase over our current, and the other was at a 78% increase.
Then you did really well.
So I will take the 12.
I think we'll all take the 12 and smile.
Yes. So it just justified that was the route we need to go. Yep.
And, just doing it, you find out you're actually, even at 24%, it would have been like, wow, compared to theirs. So, but it's good that you did that, because now you can feel good that.
Educated decision.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much for doing that. So this will be on for Monday night's meeting at 5:30, if I remember the time correctly. Okay. I'm going to circle that so I know it's on my calendar at home. Alliette bus contract.
All right, so yearly, we negotiate now an addendum to our contract with Maliette Bus Company each year. And when I initially sat down with Maliette, they're seeing close to 15% increase on expenditures in their line of work. When I countered at a 6%, and they came back and asked for an 8%. With that being said, some areas I mocked up at an 8%, and some I kept at lower than that. I only gave 4% on the mileage rate of over 60 miles per day, as well as cost per mile. The one area I did give a little bit on was the hourly cost for a driver specific to co-curricular or the Suburban, because we still had that at a $19.27, where he is paying a base rate of $23.25 at the current moment. So I upped that to 23, but that's only on the co-curricular or Suburban rates. So if you look at your list, the regular education and the special need bus rates for the bus capacities are the only things that went up by that 8%. Otherwise, everything else was 4% except for that $23 an hour rate. With the 8% increase, it is an $84,000 increase in our cost for transportation for next year. I was figuring, between that for increase anyways. The one thing I would like to add to this is we have seen an increase in some struggles with process, procedure, and communication. And I would like to put a part in the addendum that requires that they come and do at least a half day of training to learn how to handle behaviors that happen on bus in what would be an appropriate manner that we would find appropriate. So crisis prevention, intervention, but it's more or less how to handle those behaviors. And if they occur, what is the process they take?
it seems that there's just some gaps in that knowledge, and we would really like to, as a school district, provide that opportunity for them.
We've offered before.
Yes.
It would be the last several years, and it hasn't happened, so we're insisting now. And last we talked with Tim, he's more willing to have his drivers. They're not educators, and so I don't think he always sees the value in it, but it can be tailored really for anybody who works with kids. Just more of what you can do, what could help, and what you should not do. And, well, I'm sure, Danny, you have that with you.
We do the same thing with our company, yeah.
Yeah, so.
We do it ourselves. As the company, we don't rely on the school district to provide that. We partner with the school district, but we have our own training tools that we use.
And as we said to Tim, it's not going to be perfect. Kids are not perfect. There will still be behaviors, but if it helps even one driver feel less frustrated, it'd be worth it.
It's just giving them more tools in the toolbox, resources to use in the case of things occurring. So that is one thing I would like to add to the addendum as provided to them and required before the next school year starts.
What we found has been really helpful with our company is having bus monitors. So we actually have the driver and the bus monitor on all our buses. And several years ago, what helped was the usage of all the cameras that we have on all the buses, school buses. But then the kid got used to the cameras and, they just continue, I don't care if the camera's there. So the monitors now are really helping a lot. And I see we have bus attendant on here. How often? We have none.
We can't.
Is that
find
something that
drivers.
the school provides, the bus attendant, or is that what we're asking Mallett to provide
When
bus
we
attendant?
first offered in-city busing under the 2 miles, I know I've talked a lot about it, but I take responsibility in making the assumption that those little buggers would know to stay seated and semi-quiet. We did no rider training, and they weren't used to a bus. So that really blew up. We put a support staff on there, and she rode a few days and said, it's not working. So kudos to our principals and teachers, because we've really gone back to the basics, and now we have students go through the training and expectations with the staff that they know and trust before they meet their driver. So it's better, but certainly, yeah, there are still behaviors, and there may always be behaviors, but we have to work together to try to corral some of that.
And the bus attendant can be on either side. We provide Marriott reimbursement at this rate if they find bus attendants. And, if we.
It doesn't say what that is, $23.60 per hour?
I believe it's.
And if that's what a bus attendant is getting paid, I'm going to tell you, that is, for a bus monitor, that is a lot of money. So that's much more than.
You don't pay your
Oh, we don't come close to that.
It's right on the
No,
bus.
we're less,
60%?
we're at $13 an hour for a bus monitor. And
Yeah, can you double check exactly what that?
probably 75% of our bus monitors are retired
Yeah.
people.
So if we want bus monitors, if we just put a flyer up at your business,
Oh, I would
the bus
advertise.
monitors would all
I
go.
would advertise on our buses for bus monitors, absolutely. Won't advertise the bus driver, but.
Marriott lost an employee too, and they didn't replace her, so I know Tim and Carmen are trying to cover that. So they've had their thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bus drivers are not easy to come by now because the federal government last year created a new ELDT program that before you can even apply for a commercial driver's license, you have to go through this program. And our company pays for it for our drivers, and it's about $700 for somebody to go through that program. So if you don't have somebody willing to pay for that, that's quite an expense right up front, the initial cost. And then from there, you can get your learner's permit and It's a process. It takes 6 to 9 months to get a CDL driver's license for a school bus now. It's not easy.
So does every school bus driver have to have the CDL license before they
Yes.
start driving?
Yeah.
Let's try to keep us.
Well, couldn't get paid by the district, so.
Now, they're changing something, aren't they? Didn't I read?
You can be a volunteer.
No, yeah, you can volunteer, you don't get paid.
But didn't I
Where
read that
school
they,
board members can drive for
Oh,
the
I
school
didn't read
district.
that.
I read that in a flyer that came
Something.
out. Yeah.
Yes, I did read something about that, too.
yeah, I thought it said they could be volunteer drivers.
No, now that they can be paid. If what I understand has come out recently, they can be paid. However, when it comes to contractual,
We'll find that for you.
yeah, board information, you can't.
Might need that.
I can train you. You will.
That's a big no.
That's what I
Yeah,
do, I train
it's
you.
like $700, right?
Yeah.
So what's Maliat do?
I
Do
really
they-
don't know, I haven't
You
talked to
think
them.
they pay you to have their drivers trained? No?
Mike drives.
I just got mine in December and I did it all on my own. I already had a CDL license, but I got the endorsement. But
You got the S&P endorsement?
The new guidelines, it's very hard to get. I mean, they made me do my entire CDL license over when I got to my driving test.
Yes, you do.
I thought I read something about they let some part of that test go for school bus
And
What's
you
it?
don't
drivers.
have to do the pre-drip under the hood.
Under the hood.
Under the hood, that was
Okay,
it.
The state have to,
Yes.
so I travel all the state with the semi occasionally, so I have to do everything. There was no, it doesn't make it any easier.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
caveat. So if you have a bus trip that's going to Gurney Mills or Six Flags, if that driver didn't do the under the hood, they can't take that bus trip because it's out of state.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Should
so.
we find a morning route for you now?
No.
I asked her it.
Oh, you did? All right, there.
I said you'd come for a morning and evening.
I have told him and Carmen if they need anything, let me know.
Wow, that's pretty amazing, thank you.
Please let them know if they need help with charter trips, to call me, I can help there too. Just for the school district, that's it, nothing else. Yeah. And I would donate my time for that.
Nice.
On the agenda,
You can write that down too.
we are to I, 2022-2023 budget overview.
All right, where do we start, right? So, let's go ahead and take a look at our reduction spreadsheet. The two darkest highlighted items have been approved through the board and through this last meeting, so that's why I've highlighted those darker. The health insurance, we just spoke about that, that came, down to 361. Transportation is at 84,000, so that's right between those two numbers there. And so we're moving a little bit in those areas, but still staying right around that $700,000 deficit yet. After working with Amy today, we're working with some of our grants for next year and what we are expecting, and it looks like there's going to be about 50,000 in additional reductions for wages that go into a grant this next year versus being in Fund 10, so that will be an additional reduction. I will continue to bring this back with a expectation of next month pushing it to the board for approval. So I'm kind of asking if there's anything that you specifically would like me to look deeper on, take a deeper dive into. As Dr. Bardo had mentioned last month, we're at a $700,000 deficit. Mind you that the last few years we have put about that into Fund 46 every year. So we have had a surplus of excess that came out of the year. I also am hoping to lean on ESSER if I need to a bit for that, knowing that talks are going in on budget at the current moment at state level, and hopefully they come good with a little more than what
I conservatively built in. So then our overall revenues should increase more. Any questions?
No. We're on the same page, Katie.
That's a good thing. So then, looking at our fiscal activity year-to-date, we're very close, trending as expected, comparable to the previous year. You know, we're up a little bit in expenses, but, you know, we had some additional non-capital and salary expenses that are in there. And we're up just a bit in revenues, but trending right where we expected to be. I do want to make a comment from this last regional meeting that I attended through WASBO. It is very uncommon for a school district not to have to short-term borrow throughout the year, and I think we're in year 2 of not. So I'm very, that's helpful, and it goes to show with how we request reimbursement on our grants and how up the snuff we are in that. So I want to give a shout out to my team and the admins for being so on top of that, as well as the grant overseers, so.
As a teacher, principal, superintendent, I had never been in a district that didn't short-term borrow.
I realize how unique it was
Oh,
not to until my last
yes.
regional.
You are correct.
So then I'd like to just go over the fiscal year, or any questions in regards to that.
Nope, looking good.
All right. I'd like to just go over our fiscal year-end closeout procedures as of June 30th. We're on an accrual basis, so things that I talk about, if you have any questions, let me know. We review all grant expenditures to ensure carryover will not exceed allowable amounts. And I do take a look at general fund expenditures that may qualify if we have excess grant funds that need to be allocated. We run teacher summer payrolls and any balance of contracts from 22 to 23 after the last regular payroll in June, and those are allocated to this fiscal year. It's called an accrual, and so we'll get that done. We allocate payroll payables to accrue all summer school payroll and support staff hours paid in 23-24 for the 22-23 hours worked, and reconcile the benefit expenses. We review special education revenues and expenditures to ensure that we have met our maintenance effort. Currently, there's 3 different tests you can meet, 3, and we pass all 3 at the current moment, so we're doing really good with that. On June 30th, we do an additional check run. That's nothing new, but you guys will see that in your board packets for July, that there will be an additional check run done right at the end of the month. And the checks will be mailed out prior to the board meeting because they need to clear their bank due to audit purposes by July 24th. And then we also maximize any state aids for 23-24 resulting in the lower tax levy. I have a meeting with PMA, our investing brokers, next week to look over our end-of-year balances at the current moment, what we're trending, and what, like, if there will be a Fund 46 transfer, and if so, what that might look like, so I can have that for next month for you guys. Invoices and revenues received in early July, dated in June, are allocated to this year, but paid or receipted in July. That is a normal practice. And then I wanted to let you guys know that our auditors will be here July 10th through the 14th for the interim audit, and July 24th to the 28th for our final. So any additional journal entries that they require us to make, that will be the final timeline for impacting the 22-23 budget. I had to take a little bit of a deep breath when I heard that. Coming out of higher ed, our audits happen in August. So this is a quick turnaround, but my team ensures me it's doable. So.
On that sheet that you just popped up, we'll make sure, I would make sure that we give that to all of the board members, this one
Yes.
that I just saw.
Yeah.
And I will take responsibility as I should have done what you've requested. However, with running the meeting, it never crossed my mind to do that.
And I was kind of
But-
hoping Angie would be here tonight because it's a new finance committee. And so I wanted to kind of talk over this, but then also talk over just being transparent and expectations of what it means to be the face of the finance committee or what I see as that, and make sure that we're on the same page when it comes to decisions being made in the district.
And the other part, if you had been here instead of being at a
Yeah.
convention.
The look on my face might have told you.
Well, and I remember asking you, because I knew the answer before I asked you about the impact, and I knew the answer, but, yeah,
And
I know.
that deficit number would grow.
absolutely.
And, so I wanted to do up an analysis versus what the finance committee recommended for stipends for our long tenured staff versus what ended up being approved at the board meeting this last month. And so I just want to kind of go over this memo with you guys. I recommended, because it went from a stipend to actually on the wage increase.
And it was a stipend that would have been paid by us there.
One time. Yep.
Yeah.
Off Fund 10 books.
And now it's not only this year, but it's forever.
Yeah, so,
It's not forever.
well, you can't
Well,
take
it'll-
it away.
It'll be an
You
income.
don't have to give the increase next year.
Well, you can't take it away because it's on the salary schedule.
It's on the salary schedule, but realistically, you are going to give increases every year for the next 10 years, and you can do the same thing you were doing this year. You can give teachers with less time a bigger increase, and teachers with more time a smaller increase. And so it's not a forever thing.
Well, the way I'm looking at it as someone who's done what Katie's doing, is when you give 2 steps and a teacher gets a $2,000 increase over what Katie recommended to us for the 23-24 school year, in addition to what they got on the base and the other stuff, when 24-25 comes, they're going to move 1 step on that grid, and again, if they're at the top, they're at the top, but if it's someone moving through the system and they hit the next one, they're going to get that $1,000 in addition to the base, but they've already gotten the $2,000 again, every year till they're done, which is why I voted no.
No, well, I disagree with you, Dave, because every year we're going to give a raise, and it can be whatever we want it to be, and we can give it to whoever we want to give it to. And for example, at season 9, we're given, I don't know, we're given a 5 or 6% raise, but we're only given a 3% raise, and the rest of it is at the discretion of the administrators, because they're saying some people are underpaid, some people are overpaid, and it doesn't need to be the board's decision to decide who's who, it's the administrator's decision. And so that would be one option for you in the future, to bring something like that. But you can also bring, you can say, teachers over 15 years, you're only getting 2% next year. That's the way it is. And it's up to next year's board to decide whether or not they want to approve that.
And we've talked, outside of this meeting, of course, but I think it really speaks to the question, too, of the purpose of the committee structure, because, you worked certainly harder on it than I, but every time we met, though the recommendations were not made lightly. I mean, that it was, we felt very solid, and the danger in saying that is that we don't respect veteran teachers who've spent 15 or more years locally, and that couldn't be further from the truth. But being fiscally responsible and knowing that we had to address bonuses that we gave to lock in some candidates, which was not on the salary, so we thought it was kind of, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. And so my point is, when it passed committee, we were not expecting that to open up again and have that full discussion. So my question, which I can ask you later this week, Danny, but am I thinking the committee structure appropriately, that if it passes here, the other board members would be looking to you and then,
If something were gonna change, whenever I saw the video of the meeting and I saw that come to pass, my first thought was, that should have went back to committee. So, that should come back to here for discussion here, because that changed what came out of committee. So yeah, that's something I was gonna discuss with you.
So who gets to send it back to committee? The motion's on the floor, the amendments on the floor. At what point do you say, oh, no, this is going back to committee?
Well, there
Who gets
would
to
be a
send it?
member that would have to rise and make that motion to send it back to a committee.
So the committee chair.
The committee chair or any member of the board to send that back to a committee.
The other problem,
But
and I'm not blaming anyone, okay? Just so we're clear, the stipend followed the raise. The stipend should have been before the raise, and if we had, let's say we had listened to everybody and said, and I made motion, I think we should give a $2,000 stipend instead of the $1,000 that was there, for example. Maybe that would have passed, and we'd be at 4.53 instead of 5.31. But having the stipend ahead of that might have changed things. But there again, and you.
certainly didn't predict.
Right, and no one did.
Would be open.
But it just got away from the chair. Like I said, I'm going to take responsibility.
Well, I was sitting right next to you.
And you didn't know Moby, did
Well,
you?
and
She can't speak
my
unless
brain
you overheard.
doesn't apparently work as fast as other people, because in my head, I was still stuck on the schedule itself is no good then. Because, as I tried to articulate, we're not going to have, people will be individual all over there depending upon their number of years, but in the audience, people were thinking faster and already had a solution to that, so I could have asked more questions too, and just didn't.
Yeah,
And I'll find out too, Andy, something comes out of committee to the board, how do you get it back to committee per Robert's rules? Mary Kay and I can look and see.
Yeah.
But I think it just takes any member of the board can refer that back to the committee, because it's clear that it wasn't.
So you don't think the board has to, I say, I make a motion to move this back to committee. We don't have to vote on that, it just goes back.
That's what I want to check.
If that
and see.
passes,
Yeah, I want to see if we have to vote on that, or if a board member can say, due to the discussion that's going on, that this that's coming out of committee is really changed the nature of what came out of committee. The committee needs to take a deeper dive into what's being discussed. And then at that point, that's when Dr. Sprague would take all the information there and bring it back to Katie Ann in this regard to change that committee.
And
But
we
I want
were-
to check and see if they take a vote.
I would just say, as a committee member on certain committees, and not being a committee member on other committees, that, so if I have all this information that I could gather in committee, I'm trying to make an informed decision. If I'm sitting there and I really don't have a lot of information, then I'm much more likely to make an emotional decision. So when Mr. Lewandowski got up and made his speech, that's an emotional appeal to my heart. And so I'm going to make a vote with my heart. And I know you probably don't want to see any votes from the heart. You want to see votes from the mind.
budget.
I believe you can have both though,
Yeah.
I really do, but,
Well, okay, you got one.
the other thing is we were very intentional about having it approved this month, so that teachers can make informed decisions whether or not to accept a contract based on their rates.
And we even talked about this.
We
This didn't
did,
come up
and
in our
so
discussion.
I think that it was important to have it in May. So I still would have preferred it gone back, but yet we would have lost that momentum then. You know, teachers would have been asked to commit ahead of whether or not the board approved something in June. So it wasn't a perfect idea. But. So in general, would you, or I can ask later this week.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk later.
Okay.
Okay. Need a motion to adjourn? Correct, or I just adjourn it? Then it's adjourned.